Hi, everybody. I'm Bryan Norcross with a Tuesday evening update on Tropical Storm Debby that is essentially stalled out over the coast of South Carolina. Here's the latest from the National Hurricane Center as of 5 p.m. Eastern Time. 40-mile-an-hour winds is the estimate somewhere in this kind of broad, empty circulation here. The strongest winds are in these bands that are coming ashore to the east of where the circulation center is, moving at 3 miles per hour. East northeast means kind of up the coast at the current time in terms of the center, but there really is not much with the center. The center is all kind of dried out. There's no core to this storm, and the pressure now at 999 millibars because the energy is all spread out here in these outer bands. And by the way, these outer bands extend all the way down into South Florida. We had some come through here earlier on today, and they're still quite intense. So there is still energy in this overall circulation. Now, another thing I want you to notice on here is besides these bands, look here in the Midlands of South Carolina. So the moisture rotates around and then it's going uphill up to the Midlands, and then it goes uphill more when it gets up to the upstate. But in the Midlands, you see the moisture is this kind of moderate rain, those yellow moderate rains. And all that moisture that and rain really that falls up in those higher elevations all has to run south down the rivers and creeks and streams that eventually take it down to the Atlantic Ocean. So even after the rain stops down here in the low country, this water has got to come downstream. And we've had a few issues in the areas outside of Charleston because when the bands were over here, they dumped a tremendous amount of rain. Up in Waterboro in South Carolina, there were some dams that were threatened, up to 15 inches of rain in that area. Now, they're out of the heavy rains now because the bands have moved on up the coast. But just to give you an idea, the rain that's farther uphill from them still has to come down to the Atlantic Ocean. So we're not done with the flooding threat, as even though it's not as bad as it was. Okay, there's that track. Now moving on up the coast here, you can see these strong bands. These have had tornadoes in them as well, including one that did quite a bit of damage not too far from Myrtle Beach. So we're just going to keep their mind open and just be aware of what's going on around you if you're there in the Carolinas. Okay, so let's look at the track here as of 5 p.m. from the Hurricane Center. And you notice a little bit of a change if you've been watching this. The thinking is it won't be offshore that much. So that means that it won't have as much time to get strong. It won't draw in as much moisture. So all this is actually good news. Now, it still could be offshore for a while. So the Hurricane Center is saying, okay, could gain some strength. The waters there right along the coast are not especially warm, but then just offshore they're pretty warm. And then when you get pretty far offshore, you have the Gulf Stream. So it's going to be able to tap some of this warm water here. So the idea is that perhaps as more of the circulation is over the ocean, it could get somewhat stronger. Obviously, if it tracks right up along the coast, that's less likely to happen, but the official forecast takes it offshore. And remember that the worst weather, if it goes something like that, the worst weather is on this side. So this is where the bands will be. This is where the wind will be blowing onshore. So if we have what storm surge we have, it's going to be along the coast, up the coast from wherever the center is. And we just don't know at this point exactly where that's going to be. Could happen that it just goes right over Charleston for the center, but that means the worst weather is all up up the Grand Strand and on into North Carolina. So everybody along the Carolina coast just needs to be very well aware, and in the counties going inland because of the possibility of heavy rain and then that water flowing down and flooding from that. In terms of how big the storm is, here is where the extent of 40-mile-an-hour winds is thought to be, somewhere here in this quadrant, the northeast quadrant of the storm, and somewhere in this southeast quadrant, up to about that far out with the 40-mile-an-hour winds. And not the whole area, but because we know those winds there are in bands. As it moves forward in time, the idea is that it could strengthen some, and then we have, again, with the center down here, now the hurricane force gusts, so a little stronger winds. But it depends on where that center is. Move the center closer to Charleston, the stronger winds come closer to Charleston if it intensifies. But if the center is closer to Charleston, it's probably not over the water so long. If the center ends up farther north up here, closer to Myrtle Beach, then it's probably over the water longer to get there, and it might be stronger on up into Brunswick County, say, and even points north in North Carolina. So because of that uncertainty, we don't know where the stronger winds are going to be. Depends on how far offshore it goes. But all of that being said, the idea is that it maybe intensifies a little bit and then weakens when it comes ashore. Then here's another change in the new forecast at 5 p.m. that it moves out faster on Friday, so that by late Friday, it's already in Northern Virginia or the Washington, D.C. area, somewhere up that way in terms of the center and taking the moisture on with it. And then it's merged in with the front. It's not tropical anymore when it gets up here into New England, maybe moving up into Quebec in Canada. It's just really a moisture situation, tropical moisture, and then fronts moving across the north. So this is where we've been on this Tuesday, with very strong thunderstorms moving across the Midwest here, Ohio, into the Northeast, across Pennsylvania, and then New York City, out on Long Island, right along that frontal boundary. And that's because there's a dip in the jet stream here and tropical moisture coming here, maybe tapping some of Debbie's moisture, pushing up against that front. That combination is making those strong storms. They're not really related to Debbie, except for the moisture involved there. Now, there's a dip in the jet stream coming here that's going to get involved, and it's going to drag this system in as Debbie comes north. Watch all this happen over the next few days. All right, so here we go into this evening, and these storms continue here. Now, let's move forward in time here. Now we go later this evening. These waves of low pressure coming along here, the strongest storms in the Northeast late tonight, Tuesday night, into Wednesday. And then this dip in here starts to push the front to the south. Some dry air comes in, maybe for New York City, drier by late in the day tomorrow. Philadelphia and south, maybe not, with the front in the area and this moisture moving north. So stay in close touch with your weather forecast tomorrow in the mid-Atlantic there. And then we're watching this dip. See this dip coming in the jet stream in the upper left there, driving this low forward. So then moving forward Thursday into Friday, all these things merge. This dip here pulls Debbie to the north. This next system, next front, comes in. Debbie starts to merge in with the front. At that time, we have all this moisture here with these fronts. This is along the I-95 corridor all the way from North Carolina on up to New England potentially here, and certainly in the Philadelphia and New York City areas. Then we go to Saturday, and everything moves pretty slowly. Well, the remnants of Debbie move north, and the front slowly moves in, but nothing moves a lot. So Friday and Saturday in the Northeast, you have all these things coming, including Debbie's moisture. This is not a Debbie moving north situation as much as it is a Debbie combining with the front and the moisture and the dip in the jet stream, all that energy coming together to produce significant rainfall, perhaps 5 to 8 inches of rain in a long corridor. That's on top of the rain coming today, by the way. So there is a flood threat potential for the Northeast Friday into Saturday. And then by Sunday, all this clears on out, and we should be much better. One more thing to mention, this is the new forecast from Colorado State, came out today for the hurricane season. They've dropped the top number a couple. That's because we didn't have storms in July, so they're going 23 now, which is still a crazy busy hurricane season, obviously, but 4 have already happened, so 19 still to come is the forecast. 12 hurricanes. We've had 2 hurricanes so far, so 10 still to come, and 6 Category 3 and above. We've had 1, that was Beryl, so far, so 5 still to come. So all indications are a very busy hurricane season, which normally really the peak begins about the middle of August, so we're not that far away from that. All right, have a good Tuesday night, and especially in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, pay close attention to the forecasts, and I shouldn't say especially, because of course in the Carolinas, things are going to be dangerous there for the next few days. All right, have a good Tuesday night.